Okay, so we don't want to delay too much, so we'll get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Taryn Kildare. I'm the ERP-One's Marketing and Brand Specialist. I'll be your host for today's session. So before we dive in, let me give you a quick introduction to ERP-One and who we are. ERP-One is a trusted ERP solutions provider specializing in JD Edwards. Our services include consulting across technical, application development, and project management areas. We also offer long-term support through staff augmentation and managed services. With over 20 years of experience, our team works as an extension of our clients' teams, delivering a client-centric approach that helps organizations maximize the value of their ERP investment. So today's presentation is about how ERPs and enterprise applications fit into digital transformation strategies and will be led by Matt Vanderkooy, our Chief Revenue Officer. Matt has been with ERP-One for 20 years and brings extensive expertise in strategic thinking, building client relationships, and focuses on uncovering value through digital transformation. A few housekeeping notes before we begin. If you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to drop them in the comment box. I'll address them at the end. Don't worry about missing anything. This webinar is being recorded and we will share the recording with you afterwards. And before we get into it, we will do a quick poll. So with that, I'll hand it over to Matt to get us started. Thank you for joining and enjoy.
Thanks, Taryn. Yeah, let's kick off the poll here. Gavin, if you've got that, that should be popping up on your screen here. And I'd just like to get the ideas flowing for everybody as to what does digital transformation mean to you? Is it all about new business? Is it about thinking about how you use technology? Or is it really thinking about it from a cost-cutting or efficiency perspective? That come in. No wrong answers. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share here as those are trickling in. And if you have the chat window open for the meeting, you can continue to see the poll results as those get closed off. So let me get started here with our presentation on digital transformation. As Taryn said, we're going to sort of unpack what this means and then drill in a little bit to exactly what it might mean for you in terms of ERP. This is a topic I'm really passionate about. I do some teaching at the University of Calgary here where I live. I teach a whole course on this. And so we're going to try to get a whole course down into the next 23 minutes here. So hang on for the ride. Like Taryn said, ask questions, throw them in the chat. We're happy to follow up as we go and afterwards as well. So
Sorry,
really
Matt.
what we're going to...
Sorry to interrupt. Your screen's not full screen here. It's just seeing both of them.
Okay, hold on. Thank you. Technical difficulty here. I was just saying to the group beforehand that I'd much rather be in a lecture hall than do this on camera. How's that now, Taryn?
Perfect.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, so our quick agenda today, what is digital transformation? We're going to talk about building a digital strategy and then lean into this idea of operational excellence. And this is really where our ERP systems are going to come into play. So to start off, what is digital transformation? And in the work that I do teaching, I've read countless books, articles, ideas on this. And the one source that I like to go to for digital transformation is a professor from Columbia University, David Rogers. And I really love his definition here. Digital transformation is transforming an established business to thrive in a world of constant digital change. And so that really looks at three key ideas come out of that statement. First, it's about the business and not technology. I'm just going to say AI and get it out of the way early in the presentation. Digital transformation is not AI. AI is not digital transformation. It's a technology that can be applied to business problems that might be a component of digital transformation, but it in and of itself is not. So if you had AI in the drinking game, the bingo card for this, there it's out of the way. But we probably won't talk about it a whole lot more for the rest of today. It also involves changing an existing organization, not creating a startup. So our disruptor companies like our Ubers and whatnot, they're not in this. They didn't have to transform from one thing into something else. It involves changing the existing organization. And it's a continuous process. It's not a project with a start and an end date. And we'll talk about this, kind of throughout as we go. And I'd like to also go here into this idea of being philosophical on this. And again, just something to keep in mind as we're trying to understand what digital transformation means for us and for our organizations moving forward. And Parmenides here, he came up with this Parmenides fallacy, talking about well-known cognitive biases, status quo, and really looking at the fear of action versus and the unknown that sort of happens out there without considering what would happen if there was no action taken. And so it really important question here for us to think through with our organizations. What happens if you do nothing? Right? So I get it. New is scary, new is unknown, it's unpredictable. But don't make the mistake of just comparing that new course of action with the present state. You also need to compare your present state with the future state of whatever industry you're in. And if you did nothing, if you just sat on your hands and did nothing, what would you look like in comparison to your industry moving forward? And the important piece here to just keep in mind is the risk of inaction could be more significant than the risk of action along the way. So keeping that in mind as we go here. Another really great resource that I found for talking about digital transformation is out of this Harvard Business Review article called The Four Pillars of Successful Digital Transformation. And thankfully, they included a little graphic with it here that summarizes the entire article into this, 5x5 or 5x6 chart here. The point behind this is twofold. It's multifaceted, first and foremost, the digital transformation. For one company, the stage might be IT uplift. And for another one, you've got all of that back work, that backlog done, and you're ready to really focus on new business models and new products along the way. But the other part that I really like about this is that it really clearly defines what it entails, what the benefits are, what capabilities you need as an organization at each individual step. And finally, it includes different sponsors, key sponsors at the C-suite, and different KPIs. And by you as an organization taking something like this and making it your own, you're not going to get confused, or hopefully there's less confusion around what does digital transformation mean to your organization, right? Go back to the poll question. There's elements of all three of those responses in here. And the point of it all is that, like I said, no wrong answers. You could be in any one of these four pillars doing digital transformation. They're all right, but yeah, you have to have this clarity as to what you're doing in each of these areas. And so as we move forward into concerning ourselves with the connection to ERP and enterprise applications, really the IT uplift and the digital operations is a place where we're going to focus a lot of our time. And the quote from the article, just to summarize all of that, digital transformation isn't one thing. We talked about that before. It's multifaceted journey, different goals depending on your maturity. So again, understanding where you are as an organization and what you would like to accomplish is really important before you say, yeah, this is what digital transformation means for us today. So again, keeping that in mind, to summarize, what is digital transformation? It's about the business, it's a continuous process, and it's making changes to your organization that allow you to thrive going forward. And to do that, we want to move from that conceptual idea into something a little bit more strategic. Now, another resource, that I use, great book, Strategy in the Digital Age, author is Michael Lennox. And he really calls out this idea of a strategist challenge. If you're sitting down and you're building a strategy, what is the challenge that you're trying to solve there? And first, what you're trying to do is create and secure these value competitive positions. Fine. What does that mean? Well, next layer, he starts to go, and you have to do it at the intersection of your organization's values, the opportunities that are available in the marketplace, and the unique capabilities of your organization. So looking at that in a slightly different level here, again, keep that idea, that question mark central to this all. How do we create and sustain value for our organization? There's the strategic question we're trying to solve. And now, what is our mission? What's our scope? What do we value? You have to hold that in mind the entire time. If not, you're really gonna, cultural problems, challenges within that. You're gonna be off doing things that you probably shouldn't be doing. It's also the next thing to really hold in mind is what are the opportunities that are out there? What is the market demanding? So what are your customers asking for or potential customers asking for? And who else out there is already doing that? Right. And having an understanding of both of those now sets out the opportunity for your organization. And then leaning into your capabilities. What are your strengths? And where might you have a competitive advantage, right? So there might be something that the market demands. There might be somebody that's offering something as a solution to that problem, but can your capabilities, your strengths, and create a unique competitive advantage along the way there? So building out a strategy for an organization and then down into the digital perspective to satisfy that digital transformation needs to hold all of these things in hand at once. And once you have a good handle on what this is and you're starting to ask those questions, now you can start to pivot that to a digital strategy. I'd also argue at this point that a digital strategy without a broader business strategy is also a recipe for disaster. So don't go doing this until you're clear what your business strategy is. And that's really where a lot of that strategist challenge comes in. So assuming you've got that, we can start to move into a digital strategy. And a digital strategy is investing in and applying technology to the business models in your organization or ones that you want to become that allow you to create differentiating business capabilities, again, that drive value creation. So building a digital strategy needs to tie back to that value creation, which we saw on the previous slide is really what you're trying to do as an organization as a whole here. Okay. So again, you're working your way towards driving value creation. We need to have business capabilities. We need to develop those. We need to apply them to our business models. And that then starts to inform where you invest and apply technology as ways to solve how you're going to drive that value creation. And it's important too to understand as you work your way through there, what are some of the value drivers at play here? And in my experience talking to organizations about this, I say, well, what does digital transformation mean to your organization? Often it's driven very much by external focus, better customer experience, delighting our customers, creating new products and services in this new business model area that is really external facing. And I don't think that's wrong, but I think that leads to a bit of a blind spot around this operational excellence. And a lack of investment in that space can start to have the client experience new business models or any other value driver that you pick. The point is, these aren't the only three. Here's a sample of, but not figuring out what all the value drivers are. And they don't also need to be invested in equally. I like to think of this as a pie. Put all the value drivers into a pie and then slice it up. And some people are going to get bigger slices than others, but the fact of the matter is that everybody gets a slice. And so for the purpose of today's conversation and today's audience, we're going to drill into the operational excellence side of this, right? It's like I said, it's often overlooked, and without an investment here, without consideration as to how do you build a digital strategy and how do you contribute to digital transformation through your operational excellence, can become a real challenge. Maybe not apparent early in your digital transformation journey, but certainly at some stage, it will become a bit of a problem. And so, really, now, why does this all matter, right? And uh, because I do this for teaching, I get access to some research, and so I don't know if anybody on the call here has ever asked this question. Why does it matter, right? And why does it matter in the context of how does it relate back to the rest of the organization? And so thankfully, there's at least one study out there that has asked this question from an academic perspective. And so this study, they went out to answer the question, does a successful ERP implementation have a positive or negative impact on the organization's performance? And the answer unequivocally is yes. All of the values that we see here, the correlations, are positive. And so there's a positive correlation between an ERP implementation success in the middle and organization performance on the right. Well, they took it a step further and started to understand, well, what makes an ERP implementation successful? And they called out 6 critical success factors. I think we could argue whether there should be 8 or 5 or 3, whether these are the right 6 or we could swap some out. The fact is, there's 6 here. I think they're all quite good. I also think that you can see by, again, the positive correlation there that they all contribute to the success of an ERP implementation. Okay. So I think there's at least one study out there with academic rigor that's been published that says, yes, a successful ERP implementation done by executing well on these critical success factors does have a positive impact on organizational performance. But I also think this group is wise enough to know that an ERP implementation is just the beginning of it all. It's not sort of the end of the journey. And there's a lot of care and feeding that needs to happen with your ERP system. And this is where I start to layer in the idea of operational excellence along the way. And specifically looking at running an ERP that contributes to operational excellence. And what are some of the things that we can do as organizations to set up our ERP and the program around our ERP for success in this area? And we've categorized it into 4 main pillars or categories here. The first is operate, right? And so this is thinking about really the day-to-day of your ERP system, running it efficiently. This is staying up to date on releases. And I know I'm talking mostly to an audience that has on-premise ERP systems that you need to maintain yourself. So it's staying up to date on those. It's staying compliant, right? And positioning, being in position as an organization or as an ERP to support other business changes within the organization, quickly taking on merger and acquisition activity, quickly taking on a change of direction from a manufacturing perspective, if that's where you're at. So really operating that with the utmost efficiency, right? And speaking of, Oracle just announcing the Tools 929 that addresses a whole bunch of security vulnerabilities, some quite severe, right? And thinking through, I mean, that's a one-time event, but really when I talk about operate here, it's how do we quickly take on those changes so that we can close off those security gaps with least amount of disruption to our business and de-risking a lot of that and building a whole program in place that you're operating your ERP at a really, really high level. The next one up is automate. And again, we're talking again to a mostly JD Edwards audience, a software that's been around for 40 plus years. The idea of automation was completely foreign to it when it started, but it's here and it's real. And it's something that as an organization, you can start to leverage what that looks like. And here we start to go addressing some of the business demands on resources, the strive for more efficiency, the strive for more productivity. Automation is the answer for that. And there's a plethora of options, I would say, in any ERP. Certainly the more modern ones might talk about it more distinctly, But even we know in the JD Edwards space, there's a ton that can happen here. And so, how are you leveraging some of those automation capabilities to run your ERP for even more excellence there? Next step up is evaluate. We've heard that data is the new gold. I think we all know how much data can be stored or is stored in our ERP systems. And so, what are you doing with that data, right? Is it simply just there in case somebody needs to go look up a record at some point? Or are you able to really build out some KPIs, some metrics off of your ERP data that starts to inform how you might make decisions around what to produce, how to produce it, what to sell, when to sell it, all of those things that go into that. And then the final piece is transform, right? I touched on an old legacy J. Edwards system that I will stand up. It has a ton of life left, and there's a huge amount of potential there. And so we're not arguing that you transform your ERP system today into the next thing, but it's keeping it on the radar. And it's thinking about it from a broader platform, an infrastructure, a hardware perspective. And what are some of the things that you could do maybe today to set yourself up for success in the future, right? So this is not an endorsement to rip and replace your ERP with something else, but to get that mindset going of what could it look like or what should it look like going down into the future here. All of these things, when done together, I don't think there's, you know, I don't think you just go to one. I think it's looking at the whole picture here really contribute to this idea of operational excellence and how your ERP system can contribute to that. So how do we do that? First and foremost, just embrace it, right? Find ways to keep on top of the latest and greatest. This is talking to your service providers about what's out there, right? We tend to be on the forefront of that. We tend to see it across a number of different organizations. So put up your hand and ask us. Go to conferences, be part of the user group communities, because that's where you're going to start to see a lot of these different ideas, right? And really just understand the landscape of digital for your organization, and then specifically around the ERP, and then develop the capabilities. So I alluded to this earlier, and again, Rogers talks about it from this really three sections. This isn't a laundry list of things to do. It's developing capabilities in three key areas: technology, talent, and culture. And so to boil that down, the technology piece, it's your infrastructure, it's your data, and it's your systems, right? And you can fit anything you want it really into these capabilities or into these categories. Across all of these, and as a general rule here, what's your future needs, right? So if you've gone out and you've defined your organization strategy and what digital transformation is, you've then defined your digital strategy. What are the future needs that you have out there? That then should paint a really clear picture about the gaps that you have from today to where you want to be. And it should allow you to prioritize and create a plan for how you want to develop those technology capabilities. And along the way here, have an understanding about the technical debt piece out of all of this, right? Find ways to chip away at paying that down, so that you can be in position to be more nimble, and take advantage of these things, right? We've got a customer who they've got a continuous delivery program around, you know, JD Edwards Code Current from the app side, as well as the application or the tools release side, and a mandate out of every single time they do the code current portion of that continuous delivery project is to find a customization, at least one, that they can remove and put back to vanilla code. And they use those events to do that. And there's one small example of paying down some technical debt. And every time they do that, it makes the next upgrade or code current event that much easier along the way. So, real example of how customers are using that. Next up is talent. And this can go a lot of different ways here. The idea is by identifying again where you want to be, you start to identify the talent that you need to get there, and what talent needs to be in your organization when you're there. a mix of technical skills, non-technical skills, you name it. And there's really 6 different ways that you go about doing that. Hire from outside, train, acquire other companies, figure out ways to retain, partner with companies, and sadly, exit some of your talent if they're not going to be part of what needs to be there. Quick note on partnering. It's not just like it's multifaceted. If you're struggling at the strategy side of this, go to the strategy. If you need to know about a particular piece of technology, go find a partner in that area. Basically, they're partners to help you with a lot of this as well. Finally, culture. I think this is going to be another one that's going to be very different for every organization. As you start to identify what you want to be, what you want to transform into, consider who you are today, what makes you you today, and then consider the mindsets and behaviors you need to change to be the organization you want to become. I don't think you can just completely discount that what makes you you side of this. It needs to inform what you want to become. And I think we saw that when we're out building that strategy of the values and the culture that you'd want in that space. And then, but there's probably going to be some amount of change and mindset and behavior updates that need to happen within your organization. So find out what they are and call them out. We're going right to the end here. Here's our takeaway questions. Really follows the pattern of the presentation. But what does digital transformation mean to your organization? Get a good handle on the value drivers that you have and that are available to you as an organization, and then pair your digital strategy to those value drivers. All of us probably love, and maybe some of us have a love-hate relationship, but again, ERP critical to the success of this, I believe, such a central and key application for all organizations. So where does it fit in? And how are you running it? Are you thinking of it in this term of excellence and being operationally excellent along the way? And identifying the capabilities, the technology, the talent, the cultural capabilities that you need to develop in order to make all of this successful. So, perspective of time, I did take everybody right to the end. Thank you for that. Taryn, I don't know if there's any questions that came in. I can address those. But otherwise, yeah, thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you, Matt. That was awesome. I just have one question here, and it would be, how would you sell the concept of operational excellence for the ERP in an organization that just wants to focus on customer-facing impacts?
Yeah, thanks, Taryn. So I think this one goes back, to that value drivers idea, and it's really about balance, right? And from a ERP perspective and from an operational perspective, um, trying in that case, really doing the gap analysis, right? So if the organization wants to be X and it's going to have all these things, well, what are then the requirements on the ERP and how do we marry those up? So dollar for dollar, it probably won't match the investment that you're going to put on developing out new business models or creating these great client experiences. But considering if those ideas are really successful, what's the impact to the operational side of the business? And so really that's really the mindset that needs to go in and the inputs that need to go into that kind of argument. So hopefully that was helpful there.
That was, thank you. We also have another
Okay.
question here. It says, what existing options does JDE have for digital transformation and platform without having to look for an add-on vendor?
Yeah, great question. There's really quite a lot there. I think if we look at JD Edwards as sort of the application itself, a lot of the investment work that they're doing there is really enabling you as an organization to keep it up to date. So one of the things I would say is keeping it up to date with less risk and less disruption. They're just make less outages, all of those kinds of things. That's one key area. I think leaning into an end user experience, so not customer facing, but inside the organization. There's a number of things that can be done from that perspective. So all of the whole package of UDOs, I think fits really neatly into that. Um, Again, making it just configurable, easier to use for the end users. So that would be another one. Um, and I think Orchestration Studio is a really key one here. And I would say Orchestration Studio really contributes to the automation component of it. It leans into automating your business process. It leans into integrations, right? If you're using Orchestration Studio for a lot of your integrations, you're getting the latest and greatest integration technology, REST services, APIs, all of those things. So the old ways of doing it, where we would hard code information and pass that through, we don't have to do that anymore. It's all much more secure through that layer. And then some of the newer features that are out there, enterprise automation. If you've been hearing anything from the JD Edwards product team, they're really leaning heavily into this. And this is trying to, something that ERP-One we're investing in, trying to figure out what exactly does that mean for our customers. But I think the point of it all is, again, you've got data and you've got these processes in your JD Edwards system. How do you sort of zoom out and look at what operational metrics are important, and how you could then change, adapt business processes to make that even more efficient. That's a relatively new thing, and so again, yeah, I think everybody's kind of just figuring out a little bit what that looks like. So, but those I would say are making the updates more efficient, less risky, less disruptive, user experience, business process automation, and then enterprise automation as a lot of that platform technology that JD Edwards has put out.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Matt. This was a fantastic presentation. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. If you missed any part of the webinar, don't worry, we'll be sending out an email to all attendees with a recording of the session, as well as a post-webinar survey. So as a thank you for completing the survey, you'll receive a Starbucks gift card. And in the meantime, feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn, and we will see you at our next webinar. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.